The stories that are the headlines.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Patrick Paez.
I'm Ed Lingao. It's Friday, February 23 at kasama natin ang ating titong si Ronald Llamas.
As usual, pa. Oo.
Ang ating suki. But anyway, ito muna.
Always available.
Always available.
Sabi nga na, dati kasama natin na si Mr. Doronio. Nagtataka siya bakit daw always available. Tatakbo ka raw VP.
VP?
President.
VP? Akala ko blood pressure. Anyway, before anything else, here are some headlines on One News. The Bureau of Fire Protection in the Cordillera says that there are 9 ongoing forest fires in Benguet. Initial investigation points to the Kaingin or slash and burn system and El Nino as among the causes of the blaze. Industry projections are indicating a rollback in the prices of fuel products by next week. Diesel prices could be cheaper by up to 1 peso and 20 centavos a liter, while gasoline could be less expensive by 90 centavos a liter. On the other hand, kerosene is seen to go down by 1 peso per liter.
Yes. And Akbayan is urging the public to join today's National Day of Prayer and Action in the lead-up to the 38th anniversary of the EDSA Revolution. The People Power commemoration culminates on February 25. On Sunday, the No to Cha-Cha Network will hold nationwide mass actions and activities in the National Capital Region, while pro-Duterte groups will gather at a prayer rally in Cebu, also to protest the People's Initiative.
23 nga pala ngayon.
Ano ba nangyari nung 23?
Ha?
Sariwain natin ang iyong alaala, Mr. Llamas.
Hindi ko sure dahil
We don't know anymore, no?
yung doon na kami, 22 hanggang 25. Hindi mo alam kung ano yung mga...
Ganito yan 21 ng gabi nung nagtawag si Cardinal
Yes.
C na suportahan si...
Hindi, 22 ng gabi.
22 ba ng gabi?
Oo, Saturday,
Hindi ko na alam.
22. Saturday ng gabi. I remember kasi nanonood akong TV nun eh. Biglang lumabas si Marcos.
Okay.
Pinakita si Dick Morales.
Whatever. Nung the next morning, doon nyo ata kami inutusan. Mas estudyante pa kami sa USC noon eh. To march and mobilize to mobilize students from UST. Okay, and I remember that it was a memorable day kasi nilakad namin from UST all the way to EDSA. We were able to gather, I think, 300 students from UST.
Wala pa kayong rayuma no? Nakakapaglakad pa kayo ng malayo.
Kaya pa. Tsaka maluwag yung mga kalsada dahil for some reason, I think, wala masyadong bumiyahe pumasada mga jeep nung araw na yon. So maluwag ang Quezon Boulevard, Quezon Avenue when we were marching students all the way to EDSA.
Hindi pa masyadong marami tao noon, 23.
Right,
And usually mga organized forces pa yun nandyan. Pero nagsisimula na mag-trickle yung mga curious, yung mga nagusyoso, no?
Yes.
Tapos dinadala kayo ng sandwich.
Yes,
no?
yeah.
Busog na busog ako sa sandwich noon eh.
I have specific memories of the 23rd. 23rd was a Sunday. It was a Sunday. Galing ako sa UP, nagsimba. Tapos sa tanghali nun, diretso sa EDSA. Yung bus hindi na nakalagpas ng Cubao kasi barado na from Pitwason. So baba na sa Pitwason, lakad ka na. From Pitwason, pababayan eh. Puro ulo yan ng tao. Naglalakad, gumagano'n.
Ito Bok, ito mga tangke na ito. Ito yung mga naka-balandra at what part of EDSA?
Sa Ortigas sa corner EDSA.
May nakita akong picture dyan eh, ni Ed Lingao eh.
Yun, that same
Batang-bata ko eh.
part. Ed, nandiyan kayo, di ba? That same area.
Oo.
That same area. In the videos
Naka-sunglasses ka pa yata nun eh.
Oo.
Kailangan paalala yung sunglasses, di ba?
Bangaw shades, di ba? Yun ang tawag doon.
So yun, from Pitwason nilakad namin hanggang doon sa Ortigas. Puro ng tao. I mean, siyempre, may ilang parts na medyo mas sparse, pero puno ng tao. Bobbing heads, parang mga nyog sa dagat, mga ganun-ganun.
Tsaka iba-ibang klaseng tao. May mga may dalang Birheng Maria, estatwa ng Birheng Maria. May mga naka-jogging at saka short pants na parang galing sa aerobics, no? May kung ano, iba-iba talagang...
It was very middle forces, middle class.
Microcosm.
In a way, diba?
Well, nung simula.
Yeah.
Pero nung bandang huli na, no? Dumadami na yung mga...
Posisero.
yung mga galing sa mga...
Because I remember, I remember that when we arrived in EDSA from USC during that march, we found EDSA, nakita namin, it was like a picnic.
Yeah.
It was right in front of the two camps, Camp Aguinaldo and
daming sandwich,
Camp Crame.
sesto.
Yes, it was so...
Sesto.
It was festive.
Alam mo ba yung sesto?
The atmosphere was festive.
Yes.
Yun ang recollection ko pagdating doon. So it was none of this tension na nakikita natin. Kasi I think this was in another part of EDSA, near the corner for Tigas. But right in front of the two camps, medyo festive ang mood noon. In fact, I was chatting a while ago with one of our anchors in One News, Sean Yao, and her EDSA memory was that how her father brought her and her siblings and their family to EDSA, and she was 3 years old.
Naalala niya?
Yan, naalala niya. Well, siguro kwento ng tatay niya, paalala. Pero that showed you how, what the crowd was like in EDSA at that time.
Paano?
Spontaneous.
Hindi ka kinakabahan. Dala-dala mo, 3-year-old na anak mo, di ba?
Spontaneous. It was festive. It was not that organized, no? So, yun nga ano ko all these people now who have so many unrealistic expectations of EDSA. I think they need to be reminded, no, Ronald, na masyado maraming unrealistic expectations when if you really think about it, it was a spontaneous event. Wala naman pong pinlano dyan sa EDSA na yan na mangyayari.
Meron ako nakita ng mga organized forces. Pero nandun sila sa isang sulok, dala yung mga banners nila, wala masyadong pumapansin. Dahil yung previous snap election, nag-boycott sila.
Yes.
So, di ba? Nalala mo yun?
When you say that, organized forces, ito yung mga kaliwa.
Yes.
Mga kaliwa.
Pagdating nila ron, wala kumakausap. No? Nandun sila. Tsaka hindi nila inaasahan na makakaroon ng isang spontaneous.
At saka parang ang understanding ko, ang debate dyan within that movement, within the left movement was that parang they didn't know how to...
Isang mapayapa.
Oo, dahil hindi nila inasahan ang isang peaceful change of government. Yun ang inaasahan nila. They were not ready for something like that. In fact, what they were expecting after the snap elections was intensification of the repression ni Marcos.
Sa revolusyon.
Oo, at saka revolusyon na. Gera na.
Maraming sasama.
Maraming sasama sa armadong pakikibaka. Yun po ang senaryo kasi ng kaliwa dati. Yan. And then this thing happened, totally unexpected, totally unplanned. And I think it impressed the world, di ba?
Yes, nakita naman ng mundo hindi lang ng ating bansa. Mga unorganized, spontaneous groups of people, karamihan nag-curious, nag-uusyoso, pero pagdating ng mga tangke, wala silang pakialam, humarang sila. Pagdating ng mga sundalo, humarang sila at nagbigay sila ng mga bulaklak. Di ba?
Hindi dahil utos ng kanilang
Hindi. Talaga nanggaling na sa kalooban nila. No? Kaya yun yung beauty nung nangyari. Hindi to mga organized forces.
And I think that was where Ed was.
Oo.
In that group of people,
naalala ko yung picture ni Ed.
Organized people who were there.
Yan. Yan.
Picture.
Yan.
Resibo. Resibo
Kuha ni Manong Pitreyes ng Manila Times.
Yan.
Yan. Sa panulukan ng EDSA at Ortigas.
Paki-zoom in lang direct kung kaya.
Yan ang dapat
Kasi
inilabas.
itong immortal na sandali sa buhay ng batang-batang Ed Lingao.
Napaka-inosente pa ni Ed.
Estudyante pa
Hanggang
siya.
bakit ba? Bakit ba?
Di yata kaya mag-zoom.
Ilapit lang natin.
Yan na, lapit na lang. Dali lang.
Ayan. Up. Ayan.
Sa likod ng madre.
Hindi ko makahanda dahil nakakabli ako.
Okay.
Talagang nagtatago sa mga madre, di ba?
So, maraming bumilit. I think for that, it was that moment in
a
history.
couple of years after nung EDSA, nakikita mo pa siya sa mga international newspapers, international magazines, tumalabas siya. Tapos naging parang iconic
Right.
sa maraming bansa sa Africa, Latin America, even Asia dito, no? Si Lee Kuan Yew, na nagsimula na idol niya si Ferdinand Marcos.
Yes.
Siya yung isa sa mga nauna na nagpuri ng EDSA. No? Identified nung panahon na yun, si Lee Kuan Yew, also as an authoritarian leader.
Right.
Pero affected siya nung nangyari. No?
And I think we need to maybe remind ourselves na prior to 1986, there was no such thing.
Yeah.
There was no such thing where people just gathered spontaneously and are able to effect a change in government.
Usually mga armed uprising, no, armed revolts, no, or kaya na repress na mga revolts, mga natalo, di ba?
Teka, may isa pa. Kuha yan ni Peter.
Ngayon kasi, Ronald, di ba, we've seen the EDSA experience replicated in many countries ever since then, di ba? Parang medyo pangkaraniwan na lang ngayon yung mga ganyang klaseng event na kaya pa babae ng isang leader nang magrarally ka lang, di ba? So,
At marami rin yung mga lessons post-EDSA nung what should be done, what might have been done.
Ito colored naman, oh. Kuha ni Dennis Magdamo.
Yan. Talagang
ba't wala kang picture?
ha?
Bawal.
Hindi, nung panahon na yun. nung panahon na yun, wala ka namang smartphone eh. Wala ka namang
Wala po nagsa-selfie ng mga panahon na yan. Talaga, aasa ka sa mga mga professional photographers, right? Para baka sakaling mahagip ka.
Nagsisimula-
Si Ed Lingao po yung nasa likod ng madre.
Yung nakapula, na may vest.
Naka-vest, chef. Ang original po na best journalist ng Pilipinas.
ayun, nagtatago sa likod ng mga madre.
Yan, nakapulang
nagdi-focus
polo na nakakaki na vest at ang kanyang
Naka-aviator.
aviator glasses. Yan. Kulot na kulot pa ho siya niyan.
Naging ko na yan. Marka,
Tama na yan.
Ed Lingao.
Ano yun?
No?
Kuha ni Dennis Magdamo.
Ed, you were not member of any student organization or student activist organization at that time.
No.
So you went there on your own.
Yeah. I was part of a club pero not an activist organization. So,
So you went there on your own o may mga kasama ka kang
may kasama kong
kaklase?
isa o dalawang kaklase. Pero, hindi siya organized. Galing sa simbahan, nakita-kita kami.
Punta tayo doon. Parang gano'n lang.
Pero nag-iisip ka na maging journalist noon.
Journal student ako nun eh.
Okay.
Kaya naka-vest na eh.
Nakabest na nga.
feeling journalist ka na.
No. Feeling pa lang nun dahil hindi pa talaga. Pero I think in a year or two, if Lingao
After 2
finally
years,
joined.
that was third year college eh. College pa ako nun si pare kasi,
College pa rin.
trabaho nun
College pa rin.
Ako drop out.
Iyon. Oo.
So yeah, those were really heady times, you might say.
So there's a lot of marami ngayong hugot ang mga tao about EDSA.
Yes, dahil sabi mo nga kanina, yung marami yung malaki yung inaasahan. Dahil nga monumental event yan eh, no? Defining moment. Ang medyo hindi nakikita, it wasn't organized. Usually yung organized na mga ganyang klaseng revolt, mas may plano eh.
Yeah.
Ito walang plano eh, no? Kahit naman siguro si Cory hindi inaasahan na siya yung magiging presidente, di ba?
Right.
Nung panahon na yan. Ang umaasa dyan si Doy Laurel, di ba?
Right.
Yung mga politiko ang umaasa. Pero nung nangyari yan, at naging iconic si Cory at naging rallying point, yung siya yung naging presidente. Alam ko noon, may kampanya pa nga laban kay Cory eh. Yung Cory walang alam. Ganun yung kampanya noon, di ba?
Housewife ka lang.
Yan. Kaya nung nangyari yan, ay maraming inaasahan na hindi nangyari.
And the triggering event nitong EDSA People Power was anything but democratic.
Yes,
Understand?
yes,
There was the triggering event was actually a coup.
Coup attempt.
A
Yes,
coup
yes.
attempt by Defense Minister
Kaya nga,
Juan Ponce
between
Enrile.
87 to 89, there were 11 coup attempts. Dalawa sa Mindanao, siyam dito sa NCR. Di ba? Ibig sabihin, merong mga hindi masaya dun sa naging nangyari. Dahil iba yung plano nung military at that time. No? Parang ang plano nila is a military junta na papalitan yung Marcos dictatorship. No? Kaya hindi ganun ka-smooth yung transition. Eh. Dahil may problema yung ekonomiya, bago yung presidente, hindi prepared, walang karanasan para mamahala. Nagkaroon pa ng 11 kudeta.
Right.
No? Kaya hindi maganda yung transition.
Tsaka if you think about it, if you put it in context po ng mga panahon na yun, yung challenges facing the Cory government, binabakbakan ka ng kaliwa, o you're faced with an armed insurrection from the left.
Yan yata yung height ng power nila. Diyan pinakamarami ang NPA.
Right, and then at the same time, you're facing rebellion from your own military, and here is the Cory government, okay, trying to preserve. Back then, uso pa yung salitang democratic space, and the reason it was called democratic space po nung mga panahon na yon, dahil hindi hindi sigurado kung mabubuhay ang demokrasya sa Pilipinas sa mga panahon na yun. Alanganin talaga na sa parang it was a very dangerous time for Philippine democracy.
After 20 years ng Marcos presidency at saka dictatorship, yung mga pumalit, walang karanasan sa gobyerno. No? Sila Bobit Sanchez, sila Rene Saguisag,
Joker Arroyo.
Oo, walang karanasan yan. Kaya, kumbaga, they're trying to learn the ropes of governance, no? Habang inaatake sila ng kaliwa at saka kanan.
So, Ronald, given that situation, given those challenges, it was successful, the Cory government.
Well, to some extent, kung wag natin kalimutan, nung 92 election, nanalo yung successor ni Cory, yung in-endorse niya by a very slim margin, di ba? Kung nagsama si Imelda at saka si Danting,
there could have been a Marcos restoration.
Baka immediately, that early, nakabalik sila. So,
pero hindi nangyari yun. Again, to the credit of the Cory government, to those years.
Or to the credit of the divisions.
Tapos ang
Within the Marcoses.
Ang lamang lang ni FBR kay ano nun was 800,000 votes.
Yes, maliit. He was a minority president.
Pero that could have been also because you could also say na yung EDSA forces were divided, because I understand that Senator Jovita Solonga also ran, and that could have also split the votes of the EDSA forces. So may ganun din.
Yes. Pero si Jovita Solonga, siya yung pinakamababa. Doon sa hindi ganun ka-significant yung boto niya at that time. At saka nung nangyari yung EDSA, tiniklop yung mga banners, nag-uwian. So, hindi na institutionalize yung people power into a unified, not only a unified narrative, but a political project. Kaya, as early as 91, 90, ay nagsimula ng ma-divide yung mga people power forces. Kaya yung nangyari yung Salonga, Ramos, no? Miriam, no? Huwag mo kalimutan, si Miriam, puro kabataan yung di ba? Yung base nun.
But on hindsight, Ronald, di ba, the parting of ways, it's a natural occurrence, a natural result.
Especially
because, EDSA was just a coming together on a common ground of different forces.
Yes.
So it's only natural na after that event, na natanggal na yung si dating Presidente Marcos, it's natural lang na
pero
pag kanya-kanya din, magbalikan yung mga sariling interes nila.
Yung 87 Constitution was a consolidating event. Nagkaroon yung people power, medyo nagsimula nang magkaroon ng laman. Di ba? Yun yung pwede sana na naging na hanggang ngayon yung 87 Constitution ay nandito.
But honestly, Ronald, is it realistic to expect kunyari na you will try to institutionalize something that was spontaneous and expect it to work?
Pwede. Paano lalagyan mo lang ng laman yung ethos No, nangyari yung EDSA as a spirit.
In theory, that's what they attempted na i-institutionalize ang EDSA. But how can you institutionalize something that was never even planned or organized?
Yes, pero malinaw naman kasi kung ano yung tinututulan mo. Based on that, ano yung gusto mong ipalit? So, dan pwede mong simulan yung isang plataforma. At nagsimula yan nung 87 Constitution.
Pero ang malinaw namang tututulan nila was Marcos. Everything else was on the table now.
Well, meron silang tinututulan na economic policies. May tinututulan sila mga cronies, di ba? May tinututulan silang relasyon with outside countries. At that time, medyo
US bases.
US bases, na eventually.
Pero Ronald, di ba, yung mga bagay na binanggit mo na yan, hindi lahat ng mga participants sa EDSA ay sang-ayon. Doon na sila nagkakaiba-iba.
Yes, pero yung naging revolutionary government, meron ng unity yon, di ba? At saka yung pumalit na gobyerno ron, may semblance of a unity. No? Yun yung nangyari. Pero
semblance, Ronald, never forgetting na yung cabinet mismo ni Cory Aquino, dalawang faction na malalakas dyan, di ba? Yung tinatawag nila,
resignation.
yung tinatawag nila book na Council of Trent.
Oo.
I mean, I know that's a word we don't anymore hear these days, pero back then, di
Nakalimutan
ba?
na yan.
Nakalimutan na yan. Yan yung mga tinatawag na economic managers who were, pursuing liberalization and conservative economics.
Yes.
Okay, and who wanted us to bayaran natin ang utang natin sa mga foreign banks.
At dahil yung kaliwa nag-boycott, hindi sila nakasama doon sa gobyerno. So yung agenda nila hindi na ipasok.
Right.
O at least bahagi ng kanilang agenda. At very strong, halimbawa, defense chips ang really niyan. Di ba? At allegedly, siya yung nag-organize nung 11 coup d'etat, no? Nung panahon na yan. Kaya hindi talaga na-consolidate yung proyekto ng people power. Malaking sagabal yun. No? Imagine mo, 11 coup d'etat. Yung coup laban kay Marcos, yun yung first time na nakaranas tayo ng coup, di ba? Tapos biglang nanganak ng napakaraming coup.
You're describing the agenda of civil society or yung mga forces that were left of center. Nakasama kayo, left of center. But in reality, Ronald, I mean, if you look at President Corazon Aquino, she belongs to she has a certain background.
Yes.
Okay, wasn't it unrealistic for people in civil society, the progressives, to expect a president like Corazon Aquino, given her background, to pursue policies that are against her own, social political class?
Well,
I'm talking about, for example, ang kinauwian naman ng EDSA is really a restoration,
Well,
so to speak, of a system that was pre-martial law.
Yeah, ang problema doon sa after ng EDSA ay yung civil society fundamentally nag-uwian eh. Hindi naman sila nag-engage masyado sa gobyerno. Lalong hindi sila pumasok sa gobyerno. Yung sinasabi natin kanila, yung organized left, yun talaga yung hindi nakapasok dahil nag-boycott sila ng snap election. Pero yung civil society na sumama sa EDSA, were not yet that organized. At saka wala silang karanasan sa eleksyon. Wala silang karanasan sa gobyerno. Kaya naghihintay sila, pinapanood nila.
So it's unrealistic to expect na yung agenda ng civil society at ng progressive left or whatever, moderates, it's unrealistic for them to expect na masunod yung agenda nila.
Well, ang sinasabi ko, dapat yung civil society nag-scale up. Dapat yung kanilang traditional na paglayo sa gobyerno, pag-iwas sa governance, ay dapat binago nila. Dapat pumasok sila. Dahil bahagi sila ng people power. Yung people power nawala eh. No? At ang pumalit, eventually, ay yung mga dating mga politiko. Whether opposition, mostly opposition, pero even yung mga Marcos people, nagsimulang bumaliktad eh, di ba? At sumama sa gobyerno.
Yung mga dating KBL, Kilusang Bagong Lipunan, ay nag-LDP lang.
dahil karamihan sa mga KBL, they were the dominant party. Sila yung mga nasa local, sila yung mga warlords, sila yung mga dynasties, sila yung mga mayors and governors. So, tinanggap sila ng gobyerno.
Okay, but that was probably the result of, by design. Kasi nga, the Core government simply restored what was the political and economic system prior to martial law.
Well, not
You
really
have two chambers of Congress, you have a strong president and all that, so...
Not really by design. Marami naman kasi mga ibang impulses yung 1987 Constitution. Di ba? The 87 Constitution, malinaw yung anti-dynasty. Di ba? Yeah,
parang di nga.
Wala yan.
Kasi hindi nila ma-enforce eh.
Malinaw in concept, but natin implementation. Kasi wala namang...
Hindi, dahil ang inaasahan mo, legislators yung magagawa ng implementing.
Malabo yun. Kasi dapat doon pala sa Constitution, implementable na.
Yeah.
Parang I think yun ang naging malabo.
Yeah. Pero usually kasi ang Constitution is just a fundamental law eh.
It's just a framework.
Ang gagawa talaga niyan ay yung... Ang problema nga sa ating Constitution, ang daming specifics na nakalagay. Most Constitution, generalities lang eh. No? At trabaho na yan ng legislators para gawin. Huwag mong kalimutan, tinanggal ni Nene Pimentel yung lahat ng mga local officials. Nag-appoint siya ng mga bago. Kaya at least during the transition, hindi ito yung mga luma. Mga bago ito, no?
Yun.
Even
kasama si Tatay Lutz.
Even si Duterte naging vice mayor sa Davao, no? Nakalimutan ko lang ang pangalan ng mayor niya. Pero
si Respicio.
Yeah. Mga kwan yan,
Si
mga appointed local officials yan. So, ang debate nga dyan ay yung revolutionary government ba ay dapat mas tumagal para talagang naayos yung mga problema? O Yun yung debate nun eh. Na baka masyadong maikse yung a year.
But
Eventually,
you also had criticism coming in so many decades after na Cory herself was in effect a dictator.
Yes, pero
revolutionary government.
usually
For a few months.
yeah, actually ang debate nga dapat ba yang tumagal para na naayos mo yung mga problema ng 20 years na pinanggalingan na bago na sistema? Kaya ba yung ayusin in a year? Yun nga yung debate.
How can you prolong the revolutionary government of the Cory government at that time without being accused of being a dictator yourself? How could she have done that?
Well, kailangan mo talaga ang revolutionary government dahil nanalo ka not through an election. Nanalo ka through an uprising.
And she had one when she
yeah.
abolished the 73 Constitution, and there was no Constitution, and they were still putting together the 92 Constitution. But again, she would have also risked being accused of becoming a dictator herself if she had prolonged the revolutionary government.
Perhaps looking back, baka kung prolong niya ng additional year, baka hindi nangyari yung 11 coup d'etat. Dahil nagkaroon ka ng pagkakataon to consolidate the military. Na nung panahon na yon ay very loyal pa rin either kay Marcos o kay Enrile.
Pero di ba mas delikado yun na kung extend for one more year ng iyong revolutionary government, wala kang basis, wala kang nothing to stand on legally. Baka mas madali kang pataubin.
Hindi, a revolutionary government has something to stand on, no? Kaya nga gumagawa ka ng bagong konstitusyon no?
Which is absolute power. Right.
Yeah. But I mean, you can be questioned legally na parang how long are you going to be a dictator?
Yeah, because you have to level the playing field Yung cronies, yung cartels, no? Yung mga warlords, kailangan mong tanggalin yan Hindi mo yan matatanggal dun sa usual process nung pinalitan mo. Kailangan mo mag-create ng bago. Kaya yun yung kinakailangan mong transition, no? Hindi naman sinasabi na kinakailangan ng isang dekada na transition. Pero kailangan mo ng baka kulang yung isang taon para i-level mo yung playing field after 2 decades na ito yung sistema at ito yung mga nagahari sa local at saka sa national. Kaya nakita mo na ang bilis bumalik nung mga balak mong tanggalin, no? The dynasties, the warlords, no? The cartels, no? Halos hindi sila nawala
Ronald, you mentioned a while ago that during that revolutionary period where they took out all the elected local officials and they appointed their own, okay, mga OIC, isa na dyan si Vice Mayor Rodrigo Duterte ng Davao City. But I'll mention too, other people like Mayor Binay of Makati was put in place. Mayor Abalos of Mandaluyong was put in place. Another ally, and also in Manila there was Lopez. Every town and city had a new mayor, OIC. And yet, Ronald, we're talking about, in these localities at least that I mentioned, nagpatuloy rin naman sila They are the new dynasties in these areas. So, it's not like nakabalik sa Manila, for example, ang mga bagatsing right away. Or it's not like in Makati, nakabalik kagad yung mga yabut. Hindi rin Ang naiwan din at ang namayagpag din na mahabang panahon sa mga lugar nito ay mga appointed din ni Cory.
The new dynasties.
The new dynasties.
Yes, pero kung na-implement yung anti-dynasty law, that won't happen, no? Yun nga yung isang sinasabi kong kulang, no? Dapat immediately after the 87 Constitution, gumawa na ng implementing rules yung bagong Congress, yung bagong Senate, di ba? Para yung spirit ng 87 Constitution ay na-sustain.
But wasn't that wishful thinking?
Na
Yun lang. Alam mo, yun ang punto namin ni Ed. Baka lahat ng resentment o hugot about EDSA is, a lot of it is wishful thinking and unrealistic expectations.
well,
From an event like that in 86, that was actually
So
spontaneous,
much euphoria.
unorganized.
Expectations.
So there, parang ganun.
Hindi, ang sinasabi ko naman, yung cup half full. The potential was there. The potential wasn't maximized. No? Yun naman yung sinasabi ko. Yes, yung sinasabi nyo, yung ang hirap yan dahil wala naman talagang plataforma, wala naman talagang vision, no? Wala namang maayos na form of government na pinopropose. No? At sa panahon na yan, ang dami pang gusto magpabagsak sa iyo from the left and the right. Ang sinasabi ko lang, Patrick, Ed, in spite of that, no? Yung spirit ng EDSA could have been maximized and consolidated into a political project. No?
So you
Na
look at
hindi
it
nagawa.
now, 38 years after, you look at it now as wasted opportunity.
Hindi. Merong wasted, merong hindi. Halimbawa, most of the past 38 years, dalawa lang naman yung naging Aquino eh. Most of this, Duterte, Arroyo, 9 years, no? ERAP, no? 3 years, etc.
Nakadalawang Marcos na rin tayo.
Yes, kaya mahirap din sabihin na itong 38 years is an Aquino transition, no? Dahil sila nga yung pinakamaliit eh. Ikalawa, halimbawa, isang major failure was education. We have 38 years na hindi naman naipasok sa curriculum. What happened? No? What happened during the Marcos years? What happened during the EDSA uprising?
Who dropped that ball?
Yeah. Tingin ko, successive governments. No? Successive government. Halimbawa, kami, as a political party, for the past 20 years, meron kaming bill para ipasok sa bahagi ng ating curriculum yung nangyari. No? Hindi na aprubahan sa Kongreso. No? Yun yung mga problema. So, isang problema was yung ang sinasabi ko na education, which is a very fundamental na weakness nung tinatawag nating EDSA institutions, no?
Teka, may bisita tayo eh.
Yeah.
Ipasok natin bisita. Sa puntong ito, kausapin natin ang
Si
editor
Dale, no? Kahapon.
ng Freeman na si
guest
Dale
natin
Israel.
yan.
Dale, ano mga story ng Freeman? Anong headlines kayo ng Freeman? Dale, go ahead. Sorry ha, medyo papahaba. Go. Anong headlines natin dyan?
Mayang hapon again sa Storycon. Ngayong araw ay nakipagsalita tayo with the League of Municipalities Cebu chapter. Sabi ni San Simura, yung mayor ng Danbantay, na no invitation was received by the leaders of the LMP Cebu chapter for the supposed prayer rally on Sunday with former President Rodrigo Duterte. I had a phone interview with him, and he said that as far as the LMP Cebu chapter is concerned, no invitation was received, and they actually did not have any details as to what is going to happen in that rally on Sunday.
Oh,
Personally, si Mayor Shimura said that he has a scheduled event also on Sunday in Malapascua Island, which is part of his town. Okay, for
Pero malayo yung Malapascua. Malayo yung Malapascua. Nasa
napakalayo.
norte.
So, Dale, sino yung inaasahan na sasama sa 20 to 30,000 na rally sa Sunday? According to the organizers, saan sila kukuha ng mga puwersa?
20,000.
Ay, yung target,
That will
20 to 30.
They said they have a lot of volunteers from the groups that supported Duterte in 2016. Kasi if we are to look at it in a context, yung LMP has about 44 town mayors who are members of the LMP, which is majority, if not all of them, are members of the One Cebu Party led by Governor Gwen Garcia. And also, on Monday and Tuesday, Shimura said that they will be in Manila for a gathering of the LMP National Directorate where all members are expected to attend also. And then, Governor Garcia, on the other hand, is scheduled to travel on Sunday out of the country with his son. So there are no details as to itinerary for travel though. And I also chanced upon Mayor Rama this morning in an event in Cebu City, and he again said that he will be attending the prayer rally, but there is a big but there. As soon as they talk against the administration, I am out. Quote unquote, by Mayor Rama.
May malaking bat. Teka, the impression I get, tell me if I'm getting this, the impression I get is that parang hindi well coordinated with at least with the LGUs. Yung Sunday prayer rally, tapos yung kay Mayor Rama pa na parang pupunta ako, pero pag oras na may marinig akong pitik, goodbye Philippines ka.
Pag may narinig akong Cebu Republic.
Sa session.
Baka lang pag...
Tama ba, tama?
Patrick, nauuso ang prayer rallies ngayon, ha? Purong prayer rally.
yun pala
Sana
tawag.
merong prayer.
Oo. Yun ang pala tawag doon ngayon. Hindi man lang people power, no?
Wala. Prayer rallies, no?
Oo. Hindi man
Kanina,
lang-
may prayer rally sa EDSA Shrine.
Yes, oo.
Sa Linggo, may prayer rally.
Pero Dale, ito ang sasabi ni Ronald he was quoting the organizers as saying that they expect 30,000. Does it look like you're going to see something along those lines in terms of numbers? Considering nga na parang hindi masyadong coordinated data dun sa local officials.
If we are to look at it at the support of the local officials, I mean, the local officials will really have a big contribution if they will attend.
If they will attend.
So if we're looking at that point na walang isang official, or of course Mayor Rama will be going, but all the other mayors are not going. So we can expect maybe below than what they are expecting.
Okay, Dale, we'd like to know what the mood is there in Cebu, no? Mahirap naman mag-presume that what's important for us here in Imperial Manila is ganun din ang sentimento ng mga taga-Cebu, no? There are certain issues, for example, that are big issues here or noisy issues here. But probably it doesn't matter to Cebu. So what is the sentiment of Cebu regarding the big national issues or whatever issues are right now preoccupying many politicians here in Manila,
Like
the capital?
People's Initiative,
Chacha.
Chacha, Kibuloy.
Okay, I'm not just asking about the ordinary man on the street, but even the political leaders there in Cebu.
Actually, there's not much talk about People's Initiative here in Cebu.
There you go.
Actually, we are talking about the hot topic here is about traffic in Cebu City, and that's it.
Manila din dapat.
The rising traffic here in Cebu City.
Okay, but the political leaders there, are they invested in this, in this controversy, in this tug of war between the House and the Senate over charter change?
That's a strange thing because they're not really talking about it. They're talking about other issues here, local issues in Cebu. They're not talking about People's Initiative. They're not talking about charter change, and all they're talking about is actually local issues like those that are really affecting the communities here.
Alis nga, Patrick, si Governor Garcia para hindi siya maipit sa Linggo.
Oo.
Yun ang smart na.
Kailangan niya lumipad.
Hindi siya maipit. Hindi siya maipit, di ba?
Oo.
Di ba?
Smart, di ba?
Di ba?
He will be in Singapore.
Oh,
sige,
di ba?
Singapore.
Lapit lang.
Hindi masyadong malayo.
Conveniently, malapit lang eh.
Lapit lang.
Teka, Dale, one more ako. Kasi we heard Comelec, for example, say last week or the other week na yung pirma was able to gather mga 205 was able to meet the targets of 3% per congressional district in at least 205 districts out of 254. Mga ganon, total. So, malaki-laki rin ang nakuha nila. I'm wondering lang kung sa Cebu ba, masigla ba yung pangongolekta na ng pirma o hindi?
Matumal.
O matumal ba? Ayun tanong nga kanina kung pinag-uusapan yung People's Initiative dyan sa Cebu ang sabi mo parang hindi masyado. So ano yung feeling ng mga taga Cebu about PI, about pirma, about Chacha?
But what we heard reports before was that there was a signature gathering of signatures in Mandawi City.
Okay.
But the Comelec said na it's not really official yet. If those were really signatures for the People's Initiative, kasi hindi naman natin nakita yung document mismo.
Pero is it a big issue among Cebuanos? Like dito kasi sa Manila, pinag-uusapan talaga but that's Manila Davao din pinag-uusapan yan, pinagkakaguluhan but also sa Davao. We're one lang kung sa Cebu, parang wala lang.
Kasi tuloy-tuloy na yung budget. Saka sa distrito.
We can say it's passive. I mean, the topic is Cebuanos are more passive about it right now.
Okay. I'm wondering lang kung anong temper ng mga tao sa Cebu Sila ba
Well, yung 3%, madali naman makuha yan per district. Ang tanong dyan ay paano nakuha.
Okay.
Alam ko, ang target nila is 15% na, hindi na 3% lang.
Naghihintay si Ami
Ay, oo.
ng Philippines. So pakawalan na natin si Dale Israel. Dale Israel, Freeman editor based in Cebu. Maraming salamat sa
Dale,
oras
maraming
mo,
salamat.
Dale.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you also.
Happy weekend.
May hapon.
Salamat.
You're watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a quick break. We will be back in a bit.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group. Okay. You know, when you see images of EDSA that we're seeing, the preserved images of EDSA and footages of EDSA that we're seeing, like what we just showed, parang it does, for me, na nandun tayo, it does not capture actually yung EDSA na alaala natin, which was really festive po eh.
Yeah.
Noong mga panahon yun, masaya po yan. I think yung mga tense moments
Nasa mga
are
dulo
usually
eh.
nasa dulo.
Nasa dulo eh.
Sa mga parte na yan. Pero dun sa major bulk of medyo masaya tsaka puro bata. May mga naglatag pa ng mga picnic,
parang picnic
mga tao and all that. Kasi hindi nga namin nakita yung mga tangke na yan. Okay. And I think
Nakita ko yun.
and I think yung tense moment was only on the night when Cardinal Sin first called the people to join. But in the succeeding days, it was already, you get the feeling na game over na talaga even for the people there. It was game over for Marcos. Especially, I remember when he declared curfew. Nag-declare si Marcos ng curfew na walang sumunod.
Yeah.
At wala rin nag-enforce. So by that time po na nag-declare ng curfew ang gobyerno noon, si Presidente Marcos, na hindi sinunod ng tao at hindi naman in-enforce ng mga pulis, dun mo malalaman na, wala na. He was losing control.
Hindi, may mga sumubok eh. May mga general at saka commander na nag-utos para lusubin. Pero mismo yung mga sundalo, yung karaniwang sundalo na nakasakay sa mga tangke, dun sila yung affected. Dahil nasa isip nila, baka nandyan yung kamag-anak ko, di ba?
Right.
Sino ba yung mga nandyan, di ba? Kita niya, karaniwang tao eh. Kung ang katapat nila, militar sa militar, baka talaga naging madugo. Di ba? Yun yung tawag nila, magic ng EDSA. Hindi militar sa militar ang nagharap. Mga tao kasi. At siyempre, may mga kamag-anak din at mga kaibigan yung mga sundalo na, teka, pero may mga nagutos na lumusog.
I remember si General Tadjar, Commandant ng Marines. I was there, usisero ko noon eh. Didebate sila ni Butsakino. Sabi ni Butsa, hindi naman kayo pwedeng padaran, General. Hindi, my orders are to go to Aguinaldo. So I'm going. Hindi mag-aaway kayo.
I just remember din kasi Ronald, di ba? Or there was that moment on TV, hindi natin alam kung drama yun or whatever, where General Ver, the Chief of Staff back then, was asking asking permission from the President to really proceed, na sugurin na talaga yung mga puwersa ni Enrile. And ang salita ng Presidente noon, si President Marcos, was no.
At saka nung
Don't harm the civilians.
Saka nung panahon na yan, yung power struggle between yung Reform the Armed Forces Movement at saka sila Fabian Ber ay very apparent dahil yung mga RAM karamihan dito, halos lahat ito mga PMAers.
Right.
Si Ber hindi.
Hindi.
Diba? Kaya may ganung klase ng
ROTC,
tension na yan.
diba? Para mga reserve officer.
May ganung tension na yan. Kaya yung mga PMA na nag-mutiny at karamihan pa rin talaga sa mga heads ng mga batalyon sa mga PMA, nung inutusan, nag-hesitate.
Right, oo. It only becomes significant, I think we need to point out also the significance of that, na yung hesitation ng mga sundalo natin na talagang sagasaan lang. Kasi pwede naman eh. Kasi, Ronald, nangyari yan sa Gwangju, sa South Korea.
Binaril.
Nangyari yan sa Thailand. Na nung inutusan,
Binaril.
may mga nagraraling sibilyan, nung inutusan ng mga general na sagasaan yan, sinagasaan.
Sa China rin.
Oo,
diba? Sa
dito
Myanmar.
Dito lang hindi
sa Myanmar,
nangyari yan. Dito
yan.
lang po hindi nangyari yan. Right.
Sa after-action report ni Colonel Braulio Balbas ng Marines, he recalls that he was ordered several times to fire howitzers into Camp Crame. Pero he refused to several times. Sabi niya, he kept making excuses na, sir, I'm still positioning. The whole day he was positioning until finally he was pulled out na.
Okay.
Si Ami. Ipasa na. Si Ami kasi, nung panahong yun, ano na yan, reporter na yan. Editor na tayo yung panahong yun eh.
Apo si Kao, estudyante pa lang.
Estudyante pa. Si Patrick, estudyante pa.
Estudyante pa rin. Officially, Ami.
Fake news ba yun?
But before you jump into this conversation about EDSA People Power, Ami, tell us first, ano ang inaasahan natin sa front page ng Philippine Star?
Well, pinakikinggan ko yung usapan na it's significant. I find it significant na maraming discussion ngayon about the EDSA revolt kasi pare-pareho naman tayo sa media. We all know na for the longest time, at medyo matagal na hindi na pinapansin actually yung anniversary. But suddenly, well, starting in 2022, na naalala na naman natin, medyo malakas na naman yung commemoration, and especially last year dahil ang presidente na by the time na February 25 rolled around last year, syempre is Ferdinand Marcos Jr. At ngayon, may isa pang element ngayon, apart from this, na full circle tong Marcos family, may pumapasok pa ngayon na opposition na hindi natin inaasahan, yung Duterte camp. Na yun nga, sinabi ng reporter sa Cebu na doon sila magagather. So ito binabantayan namin. Although, actually, ang binabantayan namin ngayon, yung nangyayari pa rin sa West Philippine Sea. 21,000 acres daw of coral reefs doon, nasira na ng China, binay-verify pa yung report. Saka yung mga basic na inaalala ngayon ng mga tao, yung PhilHealth, sabi daw ng Malacanang, tuloy-tuloy yung 5% increase yun. Yun ang sitwasyon natin ngayon. Although, of course, minomonitor natin kung ano yung mangyayari. Dahil mukhang medyo malaki ngayon, parang may common cause ngayon, di ba? Sa EDSA kung sakasakaling pupunta. One of them yung charter change. Tapos nga, ayan, yung wages na pinag-uusapan ngayon. Pero tinitingnan natin, sabi, thousands na will gather again along EDSA, sa EDSA Shrine, and sa rin ng police, thousands din daw ang i-deploy nila. Yan ang binabantayan natin ngayon and for the weekend.
Baka mas marami yung mga pulis.
Yan ang
Actually,
problema.
yun din yun eh.
Galing pa sa'yo yan, ha?
Alam mo,
Mapapatrolong ka.
beginning mga 2011, 2012, we've been hearing the narrative that the EDSA revolt was the start of the downfall of the Philippine Republic. And that's been a recurring theme for the last decade or so eh. Na dahil sa EDSA, kaya tayo nalugmok sa kahirapan.
Ito yung tema ng EDSA Puera ad.
Oh, yun pa yun. Pero going back to 2011, 2012, may lumalabas ng mga video na ganun eh, na produce na EDSA was a downfall. And it seems to have caught on to with a lot of people eh. I suppose, in fact, that's why you have a Marcos now for president.
Yeah.
So what explains that?
Well, siguro dahil noong 2011, 2012, yan yung height ng Aquino presidency. Yan yung panahon na medyo
Panahon nyo?
sariwa pa. Sariwang-sariwa pa yung pagkapanalo eh. Kaya mataas pa. Tsaka kamamatay ni Cory noong 2010. No? Kaya nandun pa yung kaya may mga bumabanat. No? Pero yung narrative na bumagsak yung ekonomiya dahil medyo mahirap yung i-sustain sa economic rigor. Dahil talagang bagsak tayo nung from early 80s hanggang sa EDSA. Yung ating economy. Usapin ng debt, sa usapin ng inflation, sa usapin ng employment, etc. So, you can no longer go down.
Pati NEDA records naman malinaw eh. Pati yung School of Economics eh. So, but the narrative is there. People believe it.
It was an attack. It was an attack on the narrative, no? On the narrative. Basta,
Pero narrative, Mr. Llamas, narrative lang ba yan? Kasi during the Cory presidency, katakot-takot nga kasi yung mga coup attempt, kaya natakot yung mga investors. Saka nagkaroon tayo ng low utilization ng ODA, remember? Nagkaroon di ba nagkaroon ng international pledging session pa nga to assist the new presidency.
Philippine Assistance Program. Tanda ko yun. Overtime sa
Nagkaroon ng ganun eh.
Yes.
Pero yun nga, low utilization daw, tapos ang gulo-gulo pa sa atin. So, nagkaroon ng ganong problema economically. Although medyo naayos ng konti nung pumasok ng si Fidel Ramos, who was actually endorsed by Cory Aquino.
Yes. Dahil nung panahon na ni FBR, doon na na-consolidate yung Philippines 2000. Doon na na-consolidate yung model natin na the new tiger economy. Yung panahon ni Cory was basically a hard transition eh.
Yeah.
Dahil nga, 11 coup d'etat yung nangyari. Tapos
Insurgency at its peak.
Yeah, yan pinakamarami ang NPA nung panahon na yan. No? At siyempre, yung remnants ng problema ng previous government ay dinadaanan mo pa. Yung huge debt, no? Yung interest payments, no? Yung pagbagsak ng ating main export, which are primary commodities. No?
But objectively, the GDP already rebounded by that time.
Yes, tumataas na.
So
tumataas
make
na. At nagpatuloy ng panahon ni FBR.
Right. So
Ang madalas naman sabihin noon sa amin ni Cory Aquino, nung pati si Lingao reporter na rin.
Much later.
Kasi ang trabaho daw talaga niya is to nurture the fragile democracy.
Yes.
Yan naman lagi sinasabi niya noon. Yun ang emphasis niya.
Malinaw, di ba, Ami? Malinaw noon. Kasi nga, democratic space pa nga tawag nun, hindi pa talaga democracy,
Yes.
di ba? Espasyo lang na kailangan palawakin because it was threatened, it was under threat. There was huge risk and threats coming from the left and the right. I mean,
Yes.
to be fair to Cory,
Isang
Ang
interesting
tanong ngayon, Mr. Llamas, may lugar pa ba sa people power dito sa Pilipinas? Remember, tayo nag-inspire ng people power in places such as, including in Germany, in Russia, in Poland. Marami yun eh. Saka yung Velvet Revolution, iba
Break
sila
spring,
happen. Di ba? Pero tayo, nagkaroon tayo ng, I want to ask your opinion about it. Nagkaroon pa tayo ng isang people power na mukhang nakalimutan na ng buong Pilipinas. At yun nga daw ang dahilan kung ba't tayo nagkaroon ng people power fatigue. Dahil yung second people power natin, yun ang naging resulta. What do you think of that?
Yun.
Well, yun nga yung pinag-uusapan namin kanina ni Ed at ni Patrick. Medyo mahabang diskusyon yan, no? Dahil i-assess natin yung strengths at saka weaknesses ng nangyari at saka yung nangyari afterwards, no? Medyo mahabang diskusyon yan, eh. Maraming debate. Pero offhand, it's a cup half full, half empty. Merong mga positibong nangyari, meron ding mga negatibo na nangyari, at maraming hindi nangyari. Lalong-lalo na, pinag-uusapan namin kanina, education. No? Yun yung isang kinapos.
Banggitin ko lang, Ronald, Ami, no? yung naalala ko yung sinulat ng isang kaibigan mo. Idol mo, okay? Kung babanggitin ko sino, no? Sabi niya, with regards to EDSA People Power, the first time was great. The second
Yes.
time it happened, it was tragic that we needed a second time. The third time it happened, and we know what the third time was, EDSA 3.
Yeah.
It was a farce
Yeah.
already. So what can you say about that?
Well, nung EDSA 1 kasi, lahat ng mga lumabas around the world, very positive eh. Nung nangyari yung EDSA 2, marami ka narinig na negative. Na yan ba talaga ang forma ng pagbabago ng gobyerno sa bansa na yan?
Pag ayaw natin, rally na lang.
Oo. Marami ako nakita yung mga dating
Right.
pumuri sa
Do
EDSA
you
1,
agree?
no?
Do you agree
EDSA 1.
na EDSA 2 was a mistake?
Hindi ko naman sasabihin na mistake. Pero, ibig sabihin, it could have been different, no? Yung nung panahon na yan. Hindi naman pwede na tuwing meron tayong ayaw, no?
People power na lang.
Uprising ka agad, no? Lalo na, yung pumalit dun sa EDSA 2 ay hindi naman ganun kaganda.
But remember, at one
Diba?
point,
The same people who put her there, we're talking about
Yeah.
President Gloria Arroyo, they also wanted her out eventually. And they were plotting the same move. Another people power with some variations. I think dito na uso yung withdrawal of support na involved may military para mapabagsakin ng presidente.
Yun lang
So
yata-
yun ang irony. The same people who put Gloria Arroyo there eventually turned against her.
Yun lang yata.
Well, remember si Cory Aquino mismo, she was asking GMA to resign.
Right.
Hindi
right.
naman
Oo.
pinatatanggal niya, but to resign.
Yes. Oo.
And not only that, si Cory, if I remember right, she even apologized to ERAP
Yes.
for having had him removed and
Yes.
put GMA in his place.
Mukhang nagsisi
Saka
siya.
yung second time na
but
second people
not everybody
power.
agreed with that. Not everybody, there was disagreement with that.
Mas nagsisi siya doon sa pumalit eh.
Pero yung saka yung second people power, walang suporta yan ng US. Remember, ang sinabi ng US on that second people power, ang gusto daw ng US, irregular elections.
Right. Oo. Buti yung US, alam
Yung
nila.
vice president ni GMA, ayaw mag-take over, remember?
Right.
Ayaw niya.
Right.
Ayaw niya mag-take over, ayaw niya mag-head ng junta or whatever.
Right.
Kaya
So
nga yung
maraming
mga-
mga element na wala rin.
Kaya nga yung mga pumuri sa EDSA 1, Washington Post, New York Times, even Newsweek, nung second EDSA 2 ay medyo critical na sila.
Right, oo.
The same news outlet.
So,
na
so,
pumuri.
so tama yung sinabi ng kaibigan mo na sinulat na kaibigan. It was tragic. It was a tragedy. EDSA 2. That it was a tragedy that it had to happen and happen that way.
Yeah.
Pero tanong nga dyan, Mr. Llamas, you think meron pang lugar na for people power in the Philippines at this time?
Well, yung pagkatalo halimbawa ni Lenny noong 2022, no? Yung huge demonstrations na nag-culminate sa Makati na 1.2 million. Naghihintay yung mga tao for 15 hours. Merong ganung essence eh. Ibig sabihin, meron pa rin pala. No? Ako, from my vantage po, akala ko wala na eh. Pero nung nakita ko yung mga 600,000 sa Pasig, 800,000 sa Pasay, sabi ko, ano ito? Akala ko wala na ito. Akala ko yung kabataan natin ay nakafocus na doon sa TikTok, nakafocus na doon sa kanilang mga computer. Ito, in droves, nandun sila sa kalsada. No? Kaya kahit talo, ibig sabihin, meron pa rin ganong bahagi ng ating populasyon na nag-aspire for something different. No? Naghahanap ng leader na mag-harness niyan. No? Ibig sabihin, it's still there. Naakala
Well,
ko,
actually, yan ang hinahanap namin ngayon. Nasaan yung leadership? Kasi
Yes.
that's 15 million. We're talking about 15 million people here. And additional, siguro mga 2 or 3 million, no? That went to other anti-30 forces at that time. Nasaan yun? Ang laki-laki nun, ha?
yes.
But I suppose it also depends kasi on how you define people power. I mean, iba yung nag-rally ka lang, iba yung you're asking for the ouster through a peaceful revolt. Di ba? So yun nga, I suppose in sa second people power revolt, yun ang tanong eh. The first one, you might say, was a miracle of sorts. The second one was tragic kasi why do you have to do that all over again?
Yeah.
Can't you do it via the vote?
Couldn't
And
we
do it
wait
right?
for Erap to finish his term, for example?
Yeah,
Yes.
it could have happened. No?
Yes.
Lalo na, nung nangyari yung EDSA 2, may tinatawag silang anong tawag nung Chief Justice? Constructive resignation.
Yun,
Constructive
oo.
resignation.
So it was ridiculous, because we were coming up with all these terms.
Yeah.
Constructive resignation, withdrawal of support. We were clouding coup d'etat with gentler terms like withdrawal of support.
Actually,
So,
yung logic
ano,
kasi ng pagkatanggap
And-
kay ERAP, ang logic nung kasi, it was an uprising.
Yeah.
So,
but
hindi dapat nag-succeed yung Vice President. There could, yun yung sinasabi na Revolutionary Council usually.
But masingit ko lang, we're running out of time, but masingit ko lang, it's just ironic that the people who talk about rule of law, we're at some point in critical point in our country's history, we're willing to break the law and break the institutions themselves.
Yes, dahil ito namang mga uprisings na ito ay talaga namang against the law. Di ba? Well, EDSA 1, EDSA 2,
Diba?
EDSA 3, no? These are all, yung law nung panahon na yon, no? Whether tama o mali, whether restrictive o hindi.
Well, I'm
was
talking
the
about
law.
talking about the EDSA establishment forces who were during the time of ERAP, they were willing to break the law.
Yeah.
That's why they went to the Supreme Court para merong legal validation ng replacement of ERAP, hindi ba?
Kaya,
They are quoting a provision in the Constitution that allows the military, yung 87 Constitution natin, ang pinag-aawayan ngayon, there's a provision there na
The military is a protector,
can
we call.
support, diba? Nandun yun unang-una yun dun sa
And
Constitution
that's
natin.
dangerous, Amia, because that can be used by the military
Yes.
to cover a real coup,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
That they're
yun
defender of
naman.
the
Yun
people.
naman.
So
Pero wala
maybe-
nagbabanggit niya na kailangan i-amend dyan at this point.
Oo, medyo delikado yun.
actually, ang inuulit ko, ang naging basis nung post-ERAP was the constructive resignation.
Yes.
So it was
Oo.
packaged as a succession. No, nag-resign yung presidente, pumalit yung vice president. So ganun pinaglalaruan yung ating rule of law.
Oo.
No, yung ating
Parang
legality.
that's how creative they get
Yes.
with their laws.
At kung i-affirm na Supreme Court, then it's the law.
Yeah.
No, yun yung-
Challenge siya ni Era pa, sabi niya hindi siya nag-resign.
yes, right.
Okay.
Well, lumipat nga naman siya ng lumipat siya, tumuwid siya ng ilog. Ando kami nun eh.
Oo, nandun kami noon. Talagang it was a very emotionally charged. Kasi yung isa sa mga anak niya, wag na natin banggitin, talagang humagulgul. Humagulgul. You know, complete with yung gumaganon-ganon yung balikat. Naalala namin ni Ed yun. Okay. Ami Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star. Maraming salamat again sa oras mo.
Thank you,
Okay, Tito Ronald.
Mr. Llamas and
Salamat.
Patrick.
Ami.
Good afternoon, happy weekend.
Yeah, happy EDSA anniversary. Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Okay. At naway, wala nang EDSA ulit. But you can only have so many ba? After one, dapat you do it na
Yun
to the
yun.
vote eh.
Baka magkaroon na ng fatigue.
Oh, di ba?
Yun ang nangyari, I think, eventually.
Yeah.
I think that was how we ended that EDSA DOS story na parang it was good, felt good, pero parang There's something wrong here.
There's something wrong here. Something didn't feel right.
Why did we have to do it all over again? Can't we do it right next time?
Saka sa ERAP, hindi naman ginamit yung coercive arm of the state.
Yeah.
Para supilin eh. Kaya parang iba yun eh.
Super OT. Sayang. Dapat may part 2 to. Pero next week tapos na po ang anniversary.
Okay, those are the stories that are the headlines. Stories behind the headlines. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Patrick Paez. Join the Story Conference again tomorrow at Monday, 4 p.m. We are One News, all sides, all the time. This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.